What's up, everybody, and welcome to a quick little lecture on ionic bonds. We saw in the last lecture for this unit that atoms will try to become stable, chemically speaking, by achieving a complete outer arrangement of electrons like the noble gases, and that one of the ways they will do this is transfer electrons. They will either lose or gain electrons to do that. And when an atom gains an electron, it gets a negative charge. When an atom loses an electron, it gets a positive charge. And then those negative and positive charges are attracted to each other because that's what opposites do. But I don't want to give the whole lecture away here on the title slide, so let's move on to the content. So, as I have said previously, atoms will lose or gain electrons to meet a standard. And that standard is a stable energy level. That stable energy level is what happens when we have a complete outer shell of electrons. And when an atom gains or loses electrons, we call that an ion. All right? An ion is a charged particle. And the whole reason it's charged is that the number of electrons no longer equals the number of protons. There are either more electrons or less electrons than protons. All right? The proton number doesn't change, but the electron number does. And so these positive protons and negative electron charges are no longer in balance like we see in neutral atoms. It is the forces between the oppositely charged particles that hold the compound together. So the ions are held together by a force between the positive and negative charges of those ions. And compounds held together by these forces are known as ionic compounds. The ionic bond is between two charged particles, or two ions. And see, look at that, the name's right in there. Ionic bond has ions. Kind of flows real nice. Well, let's take a look at an example of this. Let's look at potassium iodide, Ki. All right. Let's look at potassium. Potassium has one electron in its outer shell. You can kind of see that right here, right? It's got two electrons in its first shell, which is full, 8 electrons in the second shell, which is full, 8 electrons in the third shell, which is full, and then one pesky little electron in that fourth shell. Well, what's going to happen is potassium wants to get rid of that one electron, because it would take 7 electrons to fill that shell, while it only takes getting rid of 1 electron to go to the previous full shell. So it is going to lose that electron from the 4th level. And the 3rd level now becomes the outer level. Potassium, because it lost an electron, becomes an ion. And it doesn't just become any ion, it becomes a positively charged ion, because there is now 1 less electron than protons. All right? We give it a +1 charge. If it loses 2 electrons, it's going to get a +2 charge. And we change the symbol to be this K +1, which we can see right here, whereas the original symbol was just a K. The other thing you'll notice that we do is we put a box around the Lewis diagram, all right, and we add in that plus that you see right here to show that there's a charge. All right, so that's what happens to potassium. Potassium loses this electron and becomes a positive ion. What happens to chlorine in the formation of potassium chloride? I know I changed the chemical. I swapped out chlorine for iodine, which is 2 above it on the table. Anyway, same thing would happen to iodine. If we look at chlorine, chlorine has 2 in the first shell, 8 in the second shell, and 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the third shell. All right, so the iodine want to change, the chlorine's going to undergo a change, and that's because it only is starting out with 7 electrons in its outer shell. Well, it's easier for chlorine to get 1 than to lose 7. So it's going to actually gain that electron from the potassium, and it will give its outer level 8 electrons. This atom's no longer neutral because it gained a negative particle. It has a charge of 1 minus, and we put a little 1 minus over there. We also changed the name to chloride, but I'll be doing a whole lot more about naming in the next video in this series. And so right here, we can see we put that negative charge. The Cl becomes a Cl minus. Chlorine becomes chloride. Again, we'll deal more with the naming at a different time. So the important thing is that it was this electron right here that moves over to chlorine and shows up right there. All right, you can see there's little X's instead of dots to show the original potassium electrons, the original chlorine electrons. All right, and now, all right, the charges from potassium and chloride attract each other, and then they cancel out, so we get an overall charge of 0. All right, the compound has a neutral charge, and that's because the positive charge cancels out the negative charge. And every single ionic compound is like this. This is just a very simple one. I could have done this with sodium and chlorine to make sodium chloride. I could have done it with potassium and iodide like I thought I was going to do with potassium and iodine. But I couldn't find a good picture of iodine. So I switched to chlorine, which is in the same family as iodine. So they react similarly. All right, so just generally speaking, ionic bonds are the force of attraction between opposite charges of ions. All right. Ionic bonds are a transfer of electrons. All right. Losing electrons. If an element loses electrons, other elements must gain an equal number of electrons. All right. In magnesium chloride, MgCl2, magnesium loses 2 electrons. It takes 2 chlorine atoms to take those electrons. All right, magnesium loses 2 electrons, becomes Mg plus 2. We already know chlorine only wants 1, which means 2 chlorines will want a total of 2. Generally speaking, all right, this is not 100% of the time, but, you know, most of the time if you're looking at a compound, ionic bonds happen between metals and nonmetals. Metals almost always lose electrons, and the nonmetals will gain electrons, with E minus being the symbol for an electron, E for electron, the minus showing the charge of that electron. All right, that's all I have for you on just an intro to ionic bonds. What we're going to do next time is we're going to talk about how to name these ionic compounds. And, for that you need to know the charges. We'll look at that. You have to change endings. So that ends up being a little bit complicated. And we'll get to that next time. Anyway, I will be around to answer questions if you know how to get a hold of me or whoever your teacher is. I'm sure they would love to answer your questions on ionic bonds. And see you next time.